The sky over the alien world burned red and gold. Smoke rose from the shattered city, twisting into strange shapes in the wind. Buildings that had once touched the clouds now lay in ruins, their towers broken and twisted like dead trees. Fires burned here and there, and the air smelled of metal, ash, and something else, fear. Among the rubble, a human walked carefully. His boots crunched over broken glass and scorched stones. He looked small against the devastation, but his eyes were steady and alert. He was searching not for weapons or treasure but for life. Any life. He found it almost immediately. Lying in a crater near the remains of a shattered palace was a figure that seemed almost unreal. The alien princess. Her armor was cracked and scorched, and strange, deep wounds covered her body. She moved slightly, a faint shiver, but her eyes barely opened. She was beautiful, not in a human way but in the way her people moved, the way their eyes glowed faintly even in pain. He approached slowly, hands raised in peace. Around him, other aliens watched from the shadows. They hissed and whispered, warning him to stay away. "She is dying," one said in a language he only partly understood. "No human can help her." The human ignored the warnings. He knelt beside the princess and gently lifted her head. Her breathing was shallow, almost gone. Her skin was pale with a strange green shimmer, the color of her people when they were weak or sick. He could see bones under torn flesh, burns that no ordinary medicine could touch. "I won't let you die," he whispered. His voice was soft but firm. He placed his hands over her wounds. At first nothing happened. The air around them was still, heavy with smoke and fear. But then, slowly, the edges of her cuts began to glow faintly, like tiny streams of liquid light. The princess twitched, and her eyes opened wider. She looked at him, confusion and hope mixing in her gaze. "Human, why?" She tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. "You'll be okay," he said, pressing his hands more firmly. "Just stay with me." The aliens in the shadows gasped. Some took a step back. No one had ever touched their princess and made her heal. They had machines, medicines, even ancient rituals, but nothing had worked. And now, a human, one of the outsiders, was doing what they could not. Hours passed. The human stayed with her, keeping her warm, speaking softly, and gently moving her limbs to restore circulation. Slowly the deep wounds closed, burns faded, and bruises lightened. Her breathing became stronger. Her eyes, once dull with pain, now gleamed with life. Finally she sat up with his help. The city around them was silent, except for distant fires and the occasional collapse of a broken building. She looked at him with amazement. "How?" she whispered. "I don't know," he admitted. I had to try." She studied him carefully. Her people were proud, cautious, and usually suspicious of humans. Yet here he was unafraid, patient, and kind. Even in a world full of destruction and war, he had not turned away. He had stayed when everyone else had fled. The princess tried to stand, but her strength was still weak. The human helped her to a safer spot, an old building that had not collapsed entirely. It was a small room, dusty and broken, but it offered shelter. He laid her down on a pile of torn fabrics and blankets he had found. Outside, the other aliens watched silently. They could not understand what they saw. Some whispered in fear, others in awe. One by one they began to realize something remarkable. This human was not just an outsider, he was something more. Brave, kind, and perhaps even powerful in ways they could not yet understand. The princess reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were weak, trembling. "You saved me," she said softly. "I saved you," he said simply. "And I will not leave you. Not now, not ever." The alien world was quiet, but the air felt charged with a new kind of hope. A hope that had not existed in years of war and suffering. A human had come, not with weapons or demands, but with something far stronger, compassion. As the night fell, he sat beside her, watching the ruined city through broken windows. Fires cast long shadows, but he did not feel afraid. He knew that as long as he stayed, she would survive. And perhaps, if he stayed long enough, he could change more than just her life. Maybe he could change the hearts of a people who had forgotten hope. For the first time in weeks, the princess smiled faintly. It was weak, but it was real. The human smiled back, and in that quiet, broken room, the beginning of something extraordinary had begun. The next morning, the ruined city was quiet, except for the soft crackle of distant fires. The human stayed close to the princess, watching her carefully. Her injuries were still healing, and she was too weak to move far. Every breath she took seemed fragile, like a candle flickering in the wind. He brought water to her lips and helped her sip slowly. "You must rest," he said. Don't try to move too much. She nodded, but her eyes wandered to the broken city outside. My people, they are still out there, she said softly. Many are hurt, many are lost. I cannot leave them. I know, the human said. We will find them. But first you need to be strong. She looked at him closely. Her gaze was full of curiosity and wonder. No human had ever shown such care to her. Most of the outsiders they had met were soldiers or merchants. None had offered compassion. None had healed her. The princess tried to sit up on her own. Pain shot through her side and she gasped. The human quickly reached for her, supporting her back and gently placing his hands over her wounds. For a moment nothing happened. Then, as before, a faint light shimmered at his touch, and the princess felt warmth spread through her body. Her wounds, still raw from the battle, began to close. Cuts stitched together as if by invisible hands, bruises faded and the pain lessened. She gasped in surprise. How? I don't know, he admitted. It just works. She looked at him in awe. No alien medicine, no ritual, ever did this. I only want to help, he said simply. I am not here to fight, only to save. Outside, some aliens were still watching from the shadows. They whispered among themselves. Some were afraid, believing he might be dangerous. Others were curious, wondering how a human could do what no alien had done. Slowly they began to step closer, careful not to frighten him or the princess. The princess struggled to her feet, leaning heavily on the human. Together they moved through the ruined city, searching for survivors. They found a few injured civilians hiding in the ruins, too weak or afraid to leave. The human helped them, treating burns and broken bones with the same gentle care he had shown the princess. Word spread quickly among the survivors. The human heals, they whispered. He can save even the princess. Some were skeptical, but when they saw the princess walking, supported by the human, they could not deny it. Hope began to spread like sunlight through the dark ruins. The princess watched him closely. You are not afraid, she said. Even when my people feared you. I was afraid, he admitted. But fear does not help anyone. I had to try. She nodded slowly, a faint smile appearing on her lips. You are different from other humans I have seen. Brave, kind, and strong. I only do what I must, he said. I cannot leave anyone behind. Not you. Not them. Not anyone. They continued moving through the city. Broken buildings leaned on each other, streets were torn apart and fires burned still. Yet in the midst of this destruction, life stirred. Survivors began to follow the human and the princess, inspired by what they had seen. The human helped each one, offering words of comfort and healing hands. At night, they returned to the small shelter he had found for her. The princess rested on the blankets, exhausted but no longer in immediate danger. The human sat beside her, watching over her like a silent guardian. Outside, the ruined city seemed endless, but inside, the room was warm with quiet hope. You saved me, she whispered. And I will keep saving you, he replied. As long as I can. She reached out her hand, weak but determined, and held his. For the first time since the battle, she felt safe. Not just alive but truly protected. She did not know why he could heal her, only that he had. And she trusted him completely. Over the next few days, the human stayed with her, moving carefully through the city, finding survivors and tending to their injuries. The princess watched him with amazement. He did not fight for glory, did not seek reward, and did not fear the dangers around them. Every action he took was for others, and the people began to see him as a symbol of hope. Finally, one evening, the princess stood on a broken balcony, looking over the ruined city. The human stood beside her, quiet and steady. The fires burned lower now, and faint signs of life were returning. You have changed everything, she said softly. Not just for me but for all of us. He shook his head. I only do what I can. You are strong too. Together we can help more people. She smiled faintly. For the first time since the battle, hope felt real. The human had not just saved her body, he had saved her spirit and the hearts of those around her. And in that quiet moment, under the glow of the dying fires, a bond formed that neither time nor war could break. A bond of trust, of courage, and of a new hope for a world that had almost been lost. The princess looked at him again, her eyes full of quiet wonder. I think, the humans may be different than I believed, she whispered. He smiled simply. We can be better than anyone expects. And in the silent city, for the first time in a long time, hope lived. Days passed in the ruined city, but for the princess, time felt strange. Each morning, the human was there beside her, his presence steady and calm. He had found more survivors, small groups of aliens hiding in the wreckage, and each day he tended to them, helping burns, broken bones, and wounds that no one else could heal. The princess watched him quietly, fascinated. No human she had ever known had cared so deeply, risked so much, or acted with such courage. While other humans were outsiders, mercenaries, traitors, or spies, this one had no weapon, no demand, no plan for conquest. He only helped. She tried to stand one morning, but weakness struck her like a heavy weight. The human was immediately at her side, catching her with strong arms. "You need to rest," he said gently. "I want to see them," she said, nodding toward a nearby group of survivors. "They need help." "You will help them soon," he replied. "But only if you are strong. Let me finish helping you first." She sighed but allowed him to guide her back to the blankets. The human placed his hands over her wounds again, and the faint glow appeared, knitting flesh together, easing pain and restoring strength. Slowly she felt her body returning to life, the weight of injury lifting. As she healed, she began to speak with him, sharing stories of her people. She described the cities that had not yet fallen, the rituals that marked births and victories, the history of their wars and the pride of her family. The human listened, never interrupting, only asking quiet questions when he did not understand. "You are patient," she said one evening after he had listened for hours. "No one has ever listened to me like this." "I want to understand," he said simply. "If I can understand, I can help better." For the first time in weeks, the princess laughed softly. The sound was weak, but it carried warmth, like a small flame in the cold ruins. He smiled back, and in that simple exchange, a new connection was forming. It was not only healing her body, it was healing her mind, her heart, and her spirit. Outside their small shelter, the ruins were quiet but alive with subtle movement. Survivors had begun to emerge from hiding, following the human wherever he went. They saw the princess standing taller, walking more steadily, and they began to believe. Hope was contagious, and the human's presence had sparked it. The princess began to accompany him cautiously, observing how he moved, how he interacted with others. She saw the care he took with every injured alien, the patience in his hands, the kindness in his words. He never demanded loyalty or respect. It was given freely because he earned it with every act. One day, a small group of children, terrified and starving, emerged from a collapsed building. They had been hiding for days, too afraid to move. The human knelt before them, speaking softly. "You are safe," he said. "Come with us. We will help you." The princess watched him. She realized then that his strength was not only in his hands but in his heart. He had the courage to face danger, the patience to soothe fear, and the wisdom to guide without forcing. She had thought humans were different, strange, or dangerous. Now she saw that some humans could be heroes beyond imagination. As the sun set, painting the sky with pink and orange light, the princess and the human sat together on the edge of a ruined plaza. She leaned on him, weak but steady, and looked at the survivors they had helped. Some were tending small fires, others were helping the injured. All of them were watching him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "You have changed more than just me," she said quietly. "You have changed them too." He shook his head. "I only do what I can. The strength is in you too. You are the princess. You lead. I only help you see it." Her eyes widened. She had always thought leadership meant power, command, or fear. But now she realized it could mean courage, compassion, and trust. The human had shown her a new way to lead, through action, kindness, and the willingness to risk oneself for others. Night fell, and the city was bathed in silver light from the moons above. The princess and the human returned to their shelter, and she rested against him. "I do not understand why you help," she whispered. "No one else would." "Because it is right," he said simply. "Because someone must. And because I can." She thought about that for a long moment. She had seen humans fight, humans cheat, humans ignore the weak. Yet this human was different. He had no greed, no fear, no desire to dominate. He only acted with courage, with love, and with hope. And for the first time she felt completely safe. Not just in body but in spirit. She trusted him completely, and in that trust she began to feel strength she had thought lost forever. In the days that followed, the princess and the human worked together. She learned from him and he learned from her. Each day she healed a little more, and the survivors around them healed too, not only in body but in heart. They began to believe that humans could be allies, friends, and protectors. And slowly, a bond formed between the princess and the human. Not a bond of romance but of respect, trust, and shared purpose. He had shown her a new way to see the galaxy, a new way to see herself, and a new way to see humanity. In the quiet moments as the fires burned low and the city slept, she looked at him and whispered, "You have given me hope." He smiled simply, softly. "Then we will give it to everyone." And in that ruined city, under the glow of the setting moons, hope lived again, stronger than fire or fear. The quiet of the ruined city did not last long. As the princess and the human helped survivors, distant sounds reached their ears, metallic clanks, rumbling engines, and the low hum of weapons. Enemy forces, alerted by the activity in the city, were returning. They wanted to capture the princess, to use her as a weapon or kill her to break her people's spirit. The princess looked toward the horizon, her eyes sharp despite her recovering strength. "They are coming," she said quietly. "We must prepare." The human nodded. He had already been thinking ahead, studying the ruined streets, the broken buildings, and the narrow alleys. "We can defend them," he said. "But we must act smart, not just fight. Use the city to our advantage." Together they moved through the streets, guiding the survivors to safer areas. The human taught them to use simple tools and debris as shields, to find high ground for observation, and to stay calm under fear. The princess, now stronger, led alongside him, giving orders with quiet authority. The survivors listened not only because she was their leader, but because he had shown them the courage to trust her again. When the enemy troops appeared over the horizon, the human and the princess were ready. They stood atop a collapsed building, looking down at the advancing forces. The humans and aliens had created barriers from rubble, set traps, and prepared hiding spots. The defenders were few, but their determination was immense. The first wave of enemies arrived, moving quickly through the streets. The survivors, under the guidance of the human, dodged and blocked them. Simple tactics slowed the attackers, buying time for the injured to escape. The human moved with calm precision, directing each person, showing them where to run and how to defend without putting themselves in deadly danger. The princess watched him in awe. She had fought countless battles, but she had never seen such leadership. He did not rely on brute strength. He relied on strategy, empathy, and courage. And in every action he risked himself for others, never hesitating, never turning away. One of the enemy squads broke through a barricade and rushed toward the princess. She braced herself, ready to fight, but before she could act, the human was in front of her. He grabbed a fallen beam, using it to push the attackers back, then directed the nearby survivors to trap them in a collapsed building. None of the humans or aliens were harmed. His tactics were precise, careful, and controlled. The princess realized something important in that moment. The human's power was not just in his strange ability to heal or survive. It was in his courage, his clarity of mind, and his willingness to act for others. That courage inspired everyone around him, even those who had feared humans for generations. The battle continued for hours. The human moved through the ruins, tending to the injured while guiding the survivors. He carried the wounded when needed, encouraged the scared, and healed those he could touch. Each time he helped, more aliens began to follow his example, working together instead of panicking. At one point, the princess found herself surrounded by enemy forces. She froze, unsure how to escape. But the human appeared beside her, holding her hand, guiding her through narrow alleys and broken streets. Every step they took, the enemy hesitated, confused by the calm and confidence radiating from him. Finally they reached a hidden path, safe from attack. The princess stopped for a moment, breathing heavily. "You saved me again," she whispered. "I will always protect you," he replied simply. "And I will protect anyone who cannot protect themselves." By nightfall the enemy forces had retreated. They had not expected such organized resistance from a ruined city, and they had underestimated the human and his influence over the survivors. The princess stood on a small hill overlooking the city. Fire still burned, but the survivors were safe, and the enemy had been pushed back. The human joined her, quiet but alert. "They will return," he said. "But next time we will be stronger." She nodded, feeling a new strength inside herself. She realized that she had grown not only physically but mentally and emotionally. With the human by her side she had hope, courage, and a plan. She was no longer just a princess in need of protection. She was a leader ready to guide her people through darkness. That night, as they rested in the shelter, the princess looked at him. "You have done more than save me," she said softly. "You have given my people a chance to believe again." He shook his head. "I only help where I can. You lead. You inspire. I only show the way." For the first time since the battle began, the princess felt truly alive. The human had healed not just her body, but her heart and the hearts of those around her. And in that moment she understood what she had always feared about humans. They were unpredictable, powerful, and full of courage. And now she saw that some humans could be heroes unlike any other. As the city slept, the princess and the human prepared for the future. They knew the enemy would return, but they also knew that together, with courage, intelligence, and trust, they could face anything. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in the fires of battle and the quiet moments of healing. And as the moons rose high in the sky, their light shining on the ruined city, a new hope spread. The human had not just returned life to the princess. He had returned hope to a world that had almost forgotten it. The city was quiet in the early morning. Fires had mostly burned out, leaving only smoke rising into the pale sky. The survivors moved carefully through the ruins, helping each other, cleaning debris and tending to the wounded. For the first time since the battle, there was a sense of peace, fragile but real. The princess stood on the highest remaining tower of her palace, now little more than a pile of rubble. She looked over the city she had fought so hard to protect. Her people were alive, safe, and slowly recovering. And beside her stood the human, calm and steady, his presence radiating reassurance. "Everything will not be perfect immediately," he said. "But this is the start." The princess nodded. "It is more than I imagined. You have done more than heal me. You have healed them too. You have given them hope." He shook his head. "I only guided them. You are the one who inspires. I cannot lead your people. Only you can do that." She looked at him with gratitude and understanding. She realized that leadership was not about commanding fear or giving orders, it was about showing courage, compassion, and trust. The human had shown her that. Word of the human's deeds spread quickly. Aliens from nearby regions came to see him, curious, cautious, and amazed. They had heard that a human had healed their princess and protected their city from an impossible attack. They came to witness the truth, and when they saw him standing calmly beside the princess, tending to survivors and instructing them, their doubts melted. For many it was a revelation. Humans were often thought to be reckless, selfish, or violent. Yet here was one who risked everything for strangers, who healed wounds others could not, and who inspired unity without demanding loyalty. Slowly the alien people began to see humans not as outsiders, but as allies and friends. The princess approached the human in front of the growing crowd. "People see you as a hero," she said. "But I know it is your heart, not heroism, that makes you remarkable." He smiled humbly. "I only do what anyone should do. If I can help, I will." The princess placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm and sincere. "Then together we will rebuild this city. And together, we will show our people that courage and kindness are stronger than fear and hatred." The human nodded. He could feel the weight of the task ahead, but also the excitement of possibility. Together they began to organize the survivors. He taught them simple techniques for rebuilding, for protecting themselves, and for caring for each other. The princess gave guidance, authority, and encouragement. Slowly order returned to the chaos. As days passed, the city began to transform. Fires were extinguished, broken buildings repaired as best as possible, and the survivors worked together, motivated by hope and the example set by the human and the princess. Children returned to play in safer areas. Adults shared food and water. The air, once thick with smoke and fear, began to feel lighter. The princess watched the human with admiration. Every day he moved among the people, speaking, helping, guiding. He did not demand praise or reward. He only acted with compassion, courage, and wisdom. And in doing so, he had changed her people's hearts forever. One evening, after the sun set in brilliant streaks of orange and purple, the princess stood beside him on the palace tower. She looked down at the city below, now alive with activity and hope. "The enemy may return," she said softly. "But now our people are ready. We are ready." He looked at her, calm and certain. "They will not win. Not when we stand together. Not when courage, hope, and trust guide us." The princess smiled faintly. She had learned much from this human. He had taught her that strength was not just in weapons or armies, but in heart, mind, and action. He had healed her body, but he had also healed her spirit, and the spirit of her people. In the days that followed, emissaries from nearby regions came to see the human and the princess. They witnessed the rebuilding efforts, the unity of the survivors, and the courage of one human who had refused to turn away. Slowly, alliances formed, and the galaxy began to hear stories of hope, bravery, and the remarkable power of compassion. The princess addressed her people publicly for the first time since the battle. She spoke of courage, trust, and the bond between humans and her people. She told them of the human who had saved her, guided them, and inspired hope. She spoke of unity, of working together, and of rebuilding a better world. The crowd listened in silence, awe, and gratitude. And when she finished, they cheered not only for her, but for the human who had shown them the true meaning of bravery. The human stood beside her, quiet and humble, letting the people's admiration flow around him. He did not seek it, but he accepted it with a calm dignity that made the message even stronger. Courage and kindness could inspire more than fear or force ever could. That night, the princess and the human stood together on the tower, looking at the city below. Fires had been replaced by lanterns. Broken streets were being cleared. Survivors were working together. Life was returning. "You have given me more than life," the princess said softly. "You have given my people hope, and you have shown us a future we never imagined." He looked at her simply. "We did it together. And we will continue to do it together." The moons rose high above the city, casting silver light over the ruins and the new beginnings. In the human, the princess, and the hearts of her people, a new era had begun. A time of unity, courage, and hope. And for the first time in a long while, the galaxy felt a little brighter because one human had refused to turn away.